Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, helping you to find jargon-free information before choosing a professional to help solve your problems and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And during this segment of the show, I have family law attorney Paul N. Youngblood, who is the owner of Youngblood Law, PLLC. And Paul is calling in all the way from Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. Now, Paul, who is considered to be somewhat of an authority in the area of family law, will be talking to you today about Dallas community property and divorce. Now, I had a little chat with Paul before he came onto the show just to find out a little bit more about what this topic is about. And I can assure you that what Paul has in store for you is going to be really, really interesting. So, that said, if you are one of the increasing numbers of people who are considering divorce in the Fort Worth, Texas area, you might just want to down tools. Take a break, log out of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or anything else you happen to be doing which may cause a distraction. And you may even want to, pick up and dust off that old notepad and pen and get ready to take some notes as we listen in to what Paul has to share with us today. So, with that said, welcome to the show, Paul.
Well, thank you so much, Stuart. It's great to be here.
You are so welcome, my friend. So, in your own words, let's just jump straight in. Briefly, describe the kinds of people who you serve and the various types of situations they find themselves in when they come to you for your help.
Sure. We help working people live the life they want to live through divorce and beyond. We believe that everyone is given certain skills, talents, abilities, and this is their life. This is their one shot at life, and to use these skills, talents, and abilities to reach their potential to help themselves and their family and their community in the world. And unfortunately, we find that there's a lot of folks who have landed in a miserable marriage, and sometimes for years and years, they are just unable to live to their full potential because they're in this miserable relationship. And so that's where our heart is. Our heart is to help people live the life they want to live. And so sometimes the only way to do that is to get a divorce. So as a model, we reject the typical adversarial divorce thing that everybody knows and loves, where everybody's got to be real suspicious of each other, and it's always a game of one-upmanship against the other party, and it's constant mudslinging and digging up past events. And we prefer not to do that. We prefer instead to look to the future. And so we work to preserve the relationships between the parents and the children, and to try to protect the marital estate so that the parties actually have some money left after the divorce to start their new life. So we're trained in the collaborative divorce model, and we look for every opportunity to negotiate settlements that our clients can really live with, rather than going to court for everything.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that, Paul. Now that we have an idea of who you help and how you help them, let's take a moment to make it absolutely clear that anything you share with us today from this point on is not legal advice or legal assistance. It's just for the purpose of disseminating general information. Now, would you just care to expand on that in your own words and briefly, Paul?
Yeah, very much. The divorce is a really intense and important thing for people when they're going through it. And seeking competent legal advice is I think, paramount to make sure that people get to get in a good position when their divorce is over. So with this discussion I'm having with you today, I want to put out some information and help people kind of understand a little bit more of how the law works, and hopefully illuminate some opportunities for people. But again, like you said, I'm not giving legal advice to any particular person here, and if someone hears what I say and it resonates with them, and they go and contact a lawyer based on this, and then that lawyer will give them legal advice, or they can call us and we will give them legal advice about their particular case. But nothing that I say here today would be used directly in any legal matter.
Fantastic. Thank you for clarifying that then, Paul. So with that said, and I know there are so many misconceptions that you could share with us today, but what are one or two of the most common misconceptions you come across while you're out there helping those families, to live the life they love?
I think the most common mistake that people make is they seem to think that, his money is his money and her money is her money. And I say his and hers, but of course, with recent changes in the law, what it could be is spouse and spouse. But just for general purpose use, we say his and hers, so most people understand that. But many folks think that the income that they earn from their job is their money, and the income that their spouse earns from their job is their money. That's not the case at all. All of the income that comes into the household each month or each year it belongs to the community. It's equally his and hers. Both spouses have that money. And so it's really critical for folks who have a one-income household. You've got one spouse that's out there working, the other spouse is a stay-at-home parent. When they go to get a divorce, both parties have access to the community's money. And so that's one of the big misconceptions that I think people have. It's not his car and her car. Both parties have an ownership interest in both cars because it's community property if those cars were bought during the marriage.
Now, that's really interesting, Paul. Is that just in your state, or is this nationwide?
There are 8 or 9 states in the union that use the community property. They use this community property, and they're almost all in the Southwest, Texas out to California, because our family law evolved from the old Spanish law. The rest of the country, their family law evolved from the English common law. And so the rest of the country doesn't do community property, but Texas and most of the southwestern states do. So that's how, and quite honestly, when I see how other states divide marital income and marital property, it boggles my mind. How is that fair? But I think that the community property is extremely fair, and it makes total sense from a logical perspective, and it's good for people who are married, and certainly it's great for people who have a one-income household, because otherwise the one spouse that stayed home and took care of the kids and made all the meals and kept the house clean and allowed the other spouse to go and work all those hours and make all the money, this spouse, the stay-at-home spouse, would get no credit for all those years of being a homemaker and being the primary, parent for the children while the other spouse was out working. So I think community property makes sense, and once you understand it, it's hard to understand how other states do how they do it.
So let me ask you this then, my friend. Based on what you just shared with us then, and obviously keeping your client's confidentiality in mind, please share an example or even a case study, so to speak, of how you have helped or even how you would go about helping somebody who came to you with that misconception or those challenges you just described, and what kind of transformational results you were able to, or on a whole, would be able to gain for them.
Sure. I think the biggest way to really help people here, and I'm gonna refer to a stay-at-home mom, although of course today, you stay-at-home dad is almost just as prevalent. But I have been contacted several times, and I'm sure this is true about every family lawyer out there, with a wife whose husband makes all the money and controls all the bank accounts. And so now she's here in your office and she wants a divorce, and she doesn't know that she has a right to the money. How can she even pay a lawyer to get the divorce? So I know that community property law says it's not his money, it's their money. And so we can actually, the courts can order the husband to pay for the wife's legal fees. So when you explain that to people, you can see all of a sudden their eyes light up. Now they thought a hopeless situation. Now they found out it's not hopeless. Additionally, when a party, look, when you file a divorce, a lot of times people can't continue to live in the same household because of just conflicts of personality, and it may be unsafe, and it's certainly unpleasant for most people. Well, we can get the court to order the breadwinning spouse to pay some money to this spouse to help her afford an apartment, to help her meet her minimum reasonable needs. And of course, child support too often helps. So, a lot of this is completely contingent on the fact that community property laws in Texas allow for the stay-at-home spouse or the non-breadwinner to be able to afford their legal case. So we've been able to help people who didn't think they could afford a divorce get that divorce that they need, because community property says it's just as much her money as it is his money.
As a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is family law attorney Paul N. Youngblood, owner of Youngblood Law, PLLC in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. And he's here today talking about Texas community property and divorce. Now, with that in mind, Paul, and for those people who you help to live the life they want, as you put it, what's one of the many pitfalls or misguided truths that they need to be aware of no matter what situation they find themselves in?
In the same way that all the income that the parties earn during the marriage, in the same way that that's community property, all the retirement accounts are also community property. All the retirement that is accrued during the marriage is community property. And so many husbands think of the retirement that they earn from their work as their retirement. And they will say, well, she can't have half of my retirement. Well, except it was never just his retirement. From the very first day he started accruing retirement at his job at, Bell Helicopter or, Kroger or wherever he's working, if he started accruing any retirement during the marriage, all of that retirement belonged to the community. And so when we get a divorce, a lot of times the wife is going to get a big piece of that retirement because it was hers from the beginning. If the party had continued to stay married all happily and retire together, both parties would be retiring on that retirement account that was earned through husband's work. So now that they're getting a divorce, the portion of the retirement that wife would have retired on needs to go to wife. So that's one of the big pitfalls there that a lot of people they can make is, A, the husband can assume that his retirement is his retirement, when in fact wife has a right to part of it. But also for wives who don't know any better, they don't seek a share of husband's retirement. So now after 20 years of marriage, when wife goes to divorce husband, she walks away with some money out of the house or some bank accounts and no retirement. And so husband's got all his retirement, she's got no retirement. So that's one of the big pitfalls I think people make is assuming that the party who earns the retirement owns it, when in fact it belongs to the community. And the other party who didn't earn the retirement, if they don't carefully receive, if they're not sure that they make sure they receive their share of the retirement, they're going to end up with none, which could be really tragic.
Fascinating. Thanks for sharing that with us, Paul. At this stage, you kind of have me curious. How many years have you been involved in the legal industry?
3.5.
About 3.5 years. So when you think about all the clients who you've helped throughout your career, on a deep down personal level, Paul, what does it give you? What do you get from that? How does it make you feel?
It makes me feel great. I love this job. I am, and it's interesting because when you tell people you're a divorce lawyer, they all say, "Oh, I'm sorry," but no, this is great because I'm helping people. Their marriage was miserable. Their divorce is not. When they get done with this divorce, they're going to be free to go and chase the dreams and to live up to their potential and unleash their personality and their skills, talents, and abilities on the world for good. I am happy to help people get free of something that's been holding them back. And so I love my job.
So how does it actually make you feel then, Paul, when you're actually able to help that person to have a better chance of living the kind of life that they want following a divorce?
It makes me feel great. And in some ways, I recognize that people are going to need all kinds of things when they get a divorce, and they don't even necessarily know it when they're filing a divorce. But a divorce may include selling their house. A divorce may include having to move to a new place, a new apartment or house. The divorce may include having to pay off a lot of debt. The divorce may include having to rebuild your credit so that you can buy new things in the future that you're going to need. It may include new employment. So one of the things that we do at my firm is we're proactive about making introductions for our clients to people in the community who provide those services that we know our client's going to need. So if our client is going to need to refinance their house, I've got people that I know and trust who are in the mortgage industry that I could refer my clients to and make those introductions. If we need to sell a house or buy a house, I know realtors all over the Dallas-Fort Worth area that focus on different neighborhoods and different areas. So I can send my client to a realtor that I know and trust who is familiar with that area, who can help that client make the most of their opportunity to buy or sell a house. All the way down to movers, all the way to roofers or, other kinds of bankers. We try to be kind of a hub of our clients' life when it comes to resources that our clients are going to need that support their new life through the divorce and beyond. And so we can do things beyond just getting you a divorce decree. Any divorce lawyer will get you a divorce decree. But what we're trying to do is make sure that you get your decree, and all you have to do now is live the life that you've already started putting into practice. And so that's what we're talking about when we say we love helping people live the life they want. I'm not interested in doing a divorce that lets someone live the life they just happen to fall into after. I want them to be intentional about the life they want to live, and we want to help them chase their dreams.
Okay, Paul, so tell us a little bit about your backstory. What inspired you to become a family law attorney?
I had several jobs. I was kind of an old man when I went to law school. I got my bachelor's degree back in 99. And then I did a contract in the Army. I did a little over 4 years in the Army. I got into retail management. And then a few years into that, I left that to become a teacher. And then I left teaching to go to law school. And when I really look back at those careers, the part that dissatisfied me with all those jobs was the policies and procedures that were in place in all those jobs were so limiting, and they were so inefficient and just dumb sometimes. And so when I went to law school, I knew early on I just wanted to run my own firm, and then I could put the focus on anything I wanted to focus on. And I wanted to run my business as effectively and efficiently as I could, and in a constant state of analysis, of self-analysis, to see if we're doing things as good as we can, and how can we improve. And so that has allowed me to run the firm in the way I want and to do things that other firms don't do, because I think it's better for our client. And the way we approach client matters is a direct reflection of my belief that there's a better way. I don't believe that we should burn the entire marital estate to the ground and poison all the relationships. I don't believe in that, although that historically is the way divorce is done. I believe that we can look forward and we can get our divorce and walk away with our head held high, and that is better. That is better than the old method. And so that's why I have really drawn to family law. The more family law we do, the more I love, and to the exclusion of other areas. We don't do personal injury. We don't do criminal defense. We don't do, intellectual property. We do family law, and specifically, we really love to focus on divorce because we feel like we can really provide the most value for our clients in the divorce world, where we can set them up for success.
So let's talk a moment about what I like to call the invisible victims in divorce. My inspiration for doing this particular series, Paul, is I'm a child of divorce myself. Today, as we speak, I'm 55 years old, but still today carry the negative impact of experiencing a very volatile, a very violent, a very bloody divorce when I was 8-9 years old, and carrying the guilt of that because I didn't understand what was going on. So I carried the guilt of my parents' breakup on my own little shoulders throughout my young life, throughout my teenage life, and made decisions which didn't really serve me. And I didn't know why I was doing that, but made decisions based on my experience and how I felt about myself and my parents' breakup. Now, fast forward to being a 55-year-old today and being able to turn that negative experience into something positive by having professionals like yourself come onto the show and share their experience. With those invisible voices, those invisible victims, as I like to call them, the children in mind, what would you like to share with the listeners who may find themselves in that unfortunate position where they are facing divorce, they're going through the process, but there's conflict there, there's lots of argument, there may be even fighting, and that's happening in front of the children. What insights would you like to share with them? Again, this is not legal advice, this is just general information.
I think that is a hugely important question, and that very question that is really the basis of why I'm 100% at peace with what I do for a living. The fact is, I believe parents have a duty to do the best they can to raise their children to be happy, healthy, balanced adults. And children model the behavior of their parents. And the way they see their parents interact with each other sets the tone for how those children will interact with other people and when they mature. And so I believe it is incumbent, it is an absolute duty and responsibility for parents to set a good example for their children on how to act even in a hurtful, stressful, anxiety-filled process of a divorce. So this is one of the reasons why, I don't know if you know, but the average divorce in Texas takes about 15 months. And in the typical divorce, the parents spend 15 months looking in the past about all the hateful, evil, rotten things that their spouse did and keep trying to dig that up and throw that at their spouse to make their spouse look worse than they look, right? And I reject that notion. I don't like it, and I don't want my clients to live 15 months of their life dwelling in the past. You know what? We can move forward and make decisions based on what we want in the future, not decisions based on historical information, and historical bad acts. So when I said earlier that we help people live the life they want to live and we work to preserve relationships between the parents and the children, my goal is that someday these two divorced parents will be able to sit in the stands together at their kids' high school graduation and be proud that they raised that kid to graduate high school. Even though they weren't spouses, even though they couldn't be married, they could be effective co-parents because they were adults and they modeled good behavior for their child. They put their child's needs before their own emotional needs. That is my ultimate dream for parents when it comes to a divorce. Make decisions as if your children are watching, and are you going to regret that later? Are you going to be embarrassed? Are you going to be guilty? Or are you going to be proud that you did right by your kid by modeling adult behavior that puts other people's needs in front of your own? Because that's what being a parent's all about. Right. So I think that our method of looking forward helps parents keep the focus where it needs to be on these kids, and let's not draw these kids into adult problems.
Exactly.
Right. So that's our model.
Yeah. And thanks for sharing that, Paul. I mean, it's just so vital just to get that message over. And, speaking from the perspective of a child of divorce myself and how I carried the guilt of my parents' breakup, it had a massive impact. It had an impact on when I came to doing exams throughout the school year. I was the model pupil at school. All the teachers used to say, "Look at Stewart Alexander. Why are you not like him?" They used to say that to the naughty children because my schoolwork throughout the year was fantastic. But whenever I came to an exam, I used to fail it, and I used to fail it on purpose. Now, I didn't know I was failing it on purpose back then, but I was I was acting out what I thought I was worth based on what I saw my parents doing. I carried the guilt of their breakup. My mother telling my father he was this, he was that, and I won't repeat the words because this is a family show, and vice versa. And I was caught in the middle and playing the ping pong. Go to your father, go to your mother. So carrying all of that, I acted out what was imprinted into my subconscious mind, and that carried on into my young working life. I was 20 21. I was in the Air Force. I chose a profession that I didn't really like because I didn't feel I was worthy of doing something better, right? So parents, people out there listening right now, it's so important, and I always say this, to love your children more than you hate yourselves right now. You may have valid reasons to be at each other's throats. Maybe you've been cheated on. Maybe you're being abused. Whatever the case may be, you still have to find some way to protect those children. So thanks for sharing your insights on that particular topic, Paul. It's going to be really, really useful for our listeners out there.
Well, I hope so. And I'm terribly sorry for what you went through. And unfortunately, that model of divorce is still prevalent and common. I just think it needs to go the way of the dinosaur. I think people need to embrace the idea that you can divorce someone without burning down all the relationships and making everybody miserable.
Exactly.
So that's what we try to do.
Exactly. So, Paul, we're coming towards the end of the show, but let me ask you this. What's the most important thing that the listener should consider when evaluating a divorce attorney like yourself?
Well, Stewart, I would recommend set aside a day and make 2 or 3 appointments. And, of course, most people will have done their research online first. And they will look for reviews and 5-star ratings and whatnot. And so use that to help narrow your search. But set aside a day to go and interview 2 or 3 attorneys. And find one that resonates. Find one that listens to your case, understands your facts and what your dreams are, so that you can have a relationship with this person, and you and this lawyer are going to be on the same page. You should not have an antagonistic relationship with your lawyer. So if your lawyer is recommending one thing and you just for sure don't want to go that direction, you may need a new lawyer. So don't be afraid to change lawyers if your lawyer's not doing what you need done. But certainly you can avoid a lot of that by doing good interviews to start with. Understand that a divorce, especially if you have small children, is going to affect your life and your relationship with your soon-to-be ex-spouse for nearly 2 decades. So don't get skimpy. Don't shop a lawyer based on price, because you're looking for value. The decisions that are made, the work this lawyer does, the advice this lawyer gives is going to guide you through decisions that are going to affect your life for 10 years or 18 years until your youngest child graduates or whatever. So it is serious, serious business with huge decisions to make. And the right lawyer on your team will help you make those decisions and guide you through the decision-making process and understand the law so you understand what you're getting. So I don't necessarily hire the first person you go and see. Shop some attorneys, interview an attorney like you would interviewing an employee. This is someone you're going to do business with for a year maybe, or maybe more than a year. And it's a huge decision. So don't get cheap. Don't start thinking the cheapest one is the one I need. You find the one that resonates with you and that you want as a partner in your new path.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, Paul, and I'm sure that the people who are listening in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area would like to know more. So before we finish up with our last question and we find out how to connect with you, what final thoughts would you like to share with those people?
Oh, Stewart, I just, we don't take pleasure in anybody needing a divorce. We don't delight in people's misery, but we don't focus on the misery. We're focused on the opportunities in the future. And so, if you're not 100% sure that you need a divorce, go get counseling. If you can save your marriage, go get counseling. Go save your marriage. Sometimes you have to swallow your pride and apologize for something. And that's okay. Because someday if you come to me, we're going to have a divorce decree. And the following day, your marriage is going to be over and you're going to look at yourself in the mirror. And I want my clients to be able to look themselves in the mirror and know that they did everything they could to save the marriage and to protect the children. And the divorce is what it is, but their conscience is clear. What I don't want is for someone to look in the mirror and they have a question of regret or a question of guilt, wondering if they did everything they could do or if they threw in the towel too early. So if you're considering divorce, and most people consider divorce for 2 years before they ever go talk to a lawyer, which is amazing to me. If you're considering divorce, go get counseling. It may be just individual counseling if your spouse won't go. If your spouse will go get group counseling and try to save your marriage. But if the counseling fails, then you will know why it's failed, and you will know that the marriage can't be saved. And at that point, there's no use in delay. Let's go ahead and file the divorce so we can start getting you free of this relationship that is ultimately going to be toxic, or at the very least, it's going to hold you down. So save your marriage if you can, but if divorce is really the last option, then find a lawyer that resonates with you.
I'm just visualizing that person stood in front of the mirror and having regrets that they didn't try everything they could do to save their marriage. And I just couldn't imagine anything worse. So that's, very wise words to take heed of, as you're out there listening in to Paul today. So all said and done, Paul, we have come to the end of the show. So if there is somebody out there who feels they want to know more about Texas community property and divorce, what's the best way for them to find you? How can they connect with you?
Well, obviously the best way would be on our website. It's www.youngblood-law.com. That's youngblood-law.com. We also have a Youngblood Law PLLC Facebook page. But on the website especially, there is, I've got the most robust FAQs about divorce that I am aware of on the internet, at least in Texas. And I update blogs at least once a week with informational, educational type blogs that can answer people's questions and just try to be educational and informational for people. And then, of course, there's the contact us button, and a phone number is right prominent on the homepage. So I think the best way for people to get new information and to contact us would be through the website. And again, that's youngblood-law.com.
So, after listening to you today, Paul, I just have this feeling that you really are good at what you do, and so good that I think I'm going to file for divorce just so that I can be your client. How does that sound?
Yeah, that goes back to that guy standing in the mirror. Now,
right.
The question is, are you going to regret that? Yeah.
Right.
No, but I appreciate your kind words. This is serious business, and we do take it so seriously because this is people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people only get one, right? So,
absolutely. So if there is somebody out there, Paul, who does find themselves in that position where they are at that point where they know, hey, I need some help with this, and I really just want to live the life that I want to, then I think you have certainly demonstrated today that you are a true educator and advocate for your client's success. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Stewart. I appreciate this opportunity to talk to folks and to talk to you. So if you ever do have any questions, feel free to contact me and shoot me an email, and we can chat or whatever. So for you personally, and of course any of your listeners.
On that point then, Paul, if somebody does decide to pick up the phone and give you a call, let's just squash any doubt whatsoever that they may have in actually doing that by explaining exactly what will happen when they pick up the phone and call your number. What's going to happen from that point on?
Well, their phone's going to get answered by a friendly person, and they need to. So I admit that I have an answering service. There's a company that answers my phone for me. Anybody who says that they're a potential client or they're a new client and they want to talk to us, their call gets run straight through to my office, and then they will talk to one of our staff here. And I will tell you, Stewart, whoever answers the phone here gives they care about this person. They give a dang. And so we're going to schedule them for a consultation. I don't do phone consults because this is serious, serious business. And I believe it's serious enough that the person needs to come and see me or my staff, and we need to see them, and we need to be able to look in each other's eyes and know that we're on the same page. And so it's cheaper for me to do an interview by phone. But I don't want to do it that way because I want people to be able to see where we're at and see where our heart is. So I prefer people come in and we'll schedule an appointment for them. We'll come in, we'll talk about their case, and at the end of that case, they'll either decide to hire us or not. Right. So that's how we typically do it. If someone is not truly ready to move forward with their divorce, I don't want them. I don't want them to be my client. I don't want them to file a divorce with anybody if they're not really ready. But I will tell you, I know that most people who are thinking about a divorce have been thinking about it for 2 years.
Wow.
So when someone comes to me, I want to make sure before they walk out of our office without hiring us, I want to make sure they understand that just talking to a lawyer does not help them. Talking about filing a divorce does not help them out of that relationship. Hiring a lawyer, filing the divorce, that is where change begins.
Right.
Talking to a lawyer is merely delaying the inevitable. And so before someone leaves, I want to make sure they understand. But if they get up and leave, they get up and leave. And I wish them the absolute best, and we'll be here for them when they are ready. So,
well, ladies and gentlemen, we have been listening to family law attorney Paul N. Youngblood. I just got to say thanks once again, Paul. You have been such a genuine, giving, caring, sharing guest today. I think this is one of my best interviews that I've had in terms of just a real deal. I can just really feel that you care for your clients. So thank you so much for coming on to the show today. And I'd also, like to take a moment to say a big thank you to you, our listener. Without you, we wouldn't have anybody to speak to. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to come and listen to us. Thank you for joining us. It was a very insightful and informative discussion with one of the leading family law attorneys. I got to remind you again, he's in the the Dallas-Fort Worth area. His name is Paul N. Youngblood. Make sure you do check him out, give him a call, visit his website. I'm sure that whatever you do decide to do after listening to Paul today, you're going to be in a great place to get started. So that's it for today, folks. Again, my name is Stewart Andrew Alexander, and I'm related to the British royal family. I'm a long-distant cousin. I'm sure you can hear that in my accent, right?
I can hear it. I was wondering.
They keep me a secret. I'm their long lost secret, but don't tell anybody. Anyway, we'll be back shortly with some more leading divorce professionals in this our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So, until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.